Well, hi, welcome to my shop, and thanks so much for joining me today. March 15th is what it is. So I ended yesterday's efforts discovering that the radio is actually working, but just extremely weak. And my plan is to continue with changing, or to continue to start changing capacitors in here. And I think the order in which I'm going to do it's kind of obvious. I'm going to do these two up here first. These two, both of them intercept the antenna and ground wires coming in the back of the radio. So anything hooked up to these wires is going through these two capacitors. That might weaken the radio right there to some degree. And then after that, we'll just keep working our way down through these originals. There's another one under here. 1, 2, 3. It's really only 5 original capacitors, or am I missing one? 5 anyway. Then we'll see how the radio performs. Then I'll have to think about some of these others that have been replaced by somebody previous to me. And I really should do something about this. Okay, those two capacitors. Let's get rid of them, and then we'll see how the radio works. Okay, let's start on the first capacitor here. It's a 0.01, and it's simply right on this terminal strip here. Go. Now, did I accidentally cut another wire? Nope. Good. Okay, here's the replacement capacitor here. Trouble spotting my solder there. So in the last few videos, on some of them I've shown some websites with some statistics about what's going on in the world. You need to keep your eye on those websites. The statistics are changing every day on those sites. These are just models. Models are terrible at predicting the future. What? That's right. Terrible at predicting the future. Generally, models are used for analyzing the sensitivity of variables in a system. So you model the system, and then you play around with the parameters of your model, and then that teaches you sensitivities of the system. But it doesn't tell you much about what the system will really do in the real world, because your model's short. It falls short. Can't model the real world, but it can give you guidance, but not absolute numbers. Nothing is absolute in this world. That's absolutely true. Cool off a bit before I do the other side. This guy's next. Right here. This looks like I could just pull that right out if I just melt it. It really does look that way. Oop. was barely in there. What happened there? The piece that was sticking out just fell out. I don't know, it's a bit of a mystery. And this guy is a .02. .02. That's interesting. This connection is to the chassis, and there's a wire on it. And where's that wire going? It's going over to this variable capacitor or trimmer. It's like a variable capacitor between the chassis and what? I don't know. There's another wire that comes over to here, over to this coil. I don't know what that is. Okay, let's just get this done for now. Do the other one over here before I forget. Oh, what happened there? A piece of wire I had wrapped that around just popped right out of the solder. Some of these capacitors are they appear to be just tacked in. That's kind of odd. That's really very odd. That's just not a factory thing that gets done. Is there some chance these have already been changed out? There's always a chance of that, but they really aren't the most likely capacitors to have been changed. Okay, that's the first two. We will check the radio and make sure it operates. Do I have to turn it right side up? Well, if I don't turn it right side up, then the sound's going to be upside down, and that's going to be confusing. You don't want upside down sound. Don't really need that. Okay, let's see what we got here. Oh, maybe first. Well, we'll let the radio warm up. I'll just turn the volume down. Power on. Light's okay. Let's go check this guy out. Here are these guys. These two first two soldiers from the front line. $50. Good. 150. And 250, I don't think it'll open. It's just going to open a little tiny bit. You can't see it in the camera. Not a terrible capacitor. Certainly not like new on an antenna circuit. Since these are, I think they're acting a little bit like safety capacitors. Maybe a little leakage might go a long ways into your finger. That opened pretty good. Not opening at 150 though. So again, not shorted, not horrendous, typical of old capacitors. Is that in any way, could that have in any way weakened the radio? Well, let's find out. So for an antenna right now, all I've got is just the lead over to my signal generator. It's a lousy. Holy smokes! What is going on? You're upset, aren't you? Boy, it's not so often Shadow comes in here. It's so demanding. I can't do anything. Yes, there's snow on the ground outside. And I can't do anything about it. That's right, it snowed here. We have snow on the ground again. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can't fix it. Yeah. Well, I think we're gonna have to put up with her meowing at me. Let's turn the radio up. Well, that's not a very good sign. Yeah, I agree, Kat. Okay, something happening. Full volume. Why don't we give it a real antenna? This might be a semi-real antenna. Here. Let's do this. Changing my mind even as I'm making my mind up here. Yep, doing it again. Okay, there we go. Let's turn it down. Didn't have that quieted it. Deal with that short. Oh! There we are. What's going on? Am I seeing things here? So this is the antenna wire. Thought this was the antenna wire. Didn't I figure this out? Part of what's going on here in my shop is the radio is plugged into a isolation transformer, so there is no earth connection or ground connection to it unless I make one with this kind of stuff. And you have to think about it for a little while, but if the radio is ungrounded, if it's floating on a transformer like this one, then hooking up the antenna wire to the ground wire or the antenna wire may have exactly the same effect on the radio. So think about that one for a while. Okay, so it's working. Now, did it improve? Seems that way to me, but I can't be sure because I really didn't test it all that thoroughly. I think we're a little step ahead. Okay, next is a couple more. Of course, the other thing about these two wires is they're both isolated from the radio through those two capacitors I just put in. So a little bit odd. Okay, so this one is involved with this. Other connection comes over to this coil. So I'm trying to identify which capacitors are part of the RF side of things. I think this one is, I imagine this one down here, which is a little bit hidden, is also. So why don't we do these two next? I'll do this one next. Let's do this one guy next. It's hard to see what it's really connected to. .200 volt. Oh, a 0.1. Oh, that's a big one. That's a big one. 0.1. Okay. Why don't we test them? I think the tester's running over here. Get my test right away. 0.1. So he's probably in charge of draining out RF back to B minus at some point in this radio, something like that. I don't really know. No schematic to go on. Okay, 50 volts. Pop right open. It's happy popping open. Popping right open here. This guy's coming out perfect. Okay, we'll hit him. No, he's 200 volts. I won't go any higher. Okay, so good to there. Give it a moment to discharge. Okay, that's a moment. Now we'll measure this guy's capacitance. 0.1. So 0.1 is right here. And this is 0.1 to 50. This is the right scale here. Okay, so watch the eye. Where does it open? Opens right in here. And right at the 0.1. So this capacitor is actually serviceable. I think this is actually, it's not often I pull one out where I say that. Could have left this one in. Great big 0.1. Now I got to find a 0.1. I got to spend a 0.1 on this radio. Before I do that, Should I do this one because it's uncovered? No, I think I got clearance. 0.1. My gosh. Come on. It's breaking my heart here. This is my second last 0.1, and I think that's another 0.1 down there. So I've noticed the palms of my hands now are in a perpetual moist state. And it's the underlying anxiety I feel, I think we all feel, as much as we don't want to feel it, for the thing that's stalking us now. Yeah, I'd like to think I'm somehow impervious to, being another one. I just took the thing right off. It's another case of the other component was just tacked in there. Son of a gun. Oh, that's great. Where did it come from? My marker's here now. Came from here. Who's here now? Is that Peanut? Who's here? What happened? Second. You know what? They're ganging up on me is what they're doing. Yeah. Yeah. Shadow. She's right at the door there. Yeah, the two of them are out there trying to convince me. You know what? Maybe I can make them happy. I'll just send them off to the garage. They like spending time in the garage. It's the next best thing to going outside. Okay, see if we can just kind of get this guy to stick in here. Thick enough I can make the other connection. Yeah, I hear you, Peanut. I know. Can you hang on just a minute? Hello? Peanut. No, over here. Say hello to the door. Hey. Hey. Oh, he's lost in his cat world there. Okay, so that's one. Let's give it a test. Why not? What's the rush? Is there a rush on this? Am I rushing? I got somewhere to be today. I think I have to make a trip to the grocery store today. Volume down and power on. We got nothing for an antenna here. Let's bring on the goofy antenna. I don't think this is even. I don't think my antenna switch is closed. We just need a little bit. Replace a good 0.1 with a good 0.1. It sounds better to me. But you can't trust subjective observations. Okay. Let's go for another one. This is the one tucked up tight to the coil here. Okay, it's on the terminal strip back here. And the other wire is going to a really busy terminal down there. Is that it? Hooked right to the chassis? This great big thing here. What's going on down here? Oh, it's as solid as a rock. I think maybe that's a chassis connection. But, well, I haven't looked at the schematic, so I really don't know how they've done the chassis, and I didn't really inspect this from a how they do the chassis point of view. I'm looking now. So I'm looking for all the connections that make it to the chassis. So we have one here, which connects to this, which connects to this. Oh yeah, I did forget about you. Okay, let me go settle my cats down here. I'm gonna get my leg chewed off at some point. Okay, let's carry on here. So I don't know where the end of this one's connected, so I'm going to free it up from this end. Where's it going? Okay, so I'm going to cut the wire and then I'll find out where it's going. Not enough light. There it is. another 0.1 200 volt capacitor. Is this really a terminal onto the chassis? Oh, it must be. You know what, that's a lug. That's a lug that's locked to the chassis with a nut and screw that's holding the tuning capacitor to the chassis. So that's a direct chassis connection, a lot of stuff on it. Okay, I'm gonna spend my last 0.1 here. Oh my gosh, these aren't even cheap, these guys. I got one more. How do you like that? I didn't give myself any extra. Why do I always do that? Not really looking for an answer to that question. Okay, got it. Go. Hello, Peanut. Sounds like he's in pain out there. Look, you looked out the window, you saw the snow. The problem is the sun is shining outside too, right now. And I guess the sun is stronger than the snow. To let them go outside. They're like me. Sometimes they just gotta see for themselves. Come on. Okay, guys in. Now this one. I already cut this one. I cut this one. Somebody cut that one. Was it me? Who cut that? Okay, I got 2 capacitors. Let's check them. See where we're at with these. Now there's various ways to test capacitors, and there's issues with capacitors, modern tiny little surface mount capacitors and stuff like that really aren't issues with these guys. Not quite the same. So this tester is very suitable for doing this to these old capacitors. So we're going to throw 50 volts on it and see what the leak is. No leak. Not so good here. Now again, if these capacitors are in 0.02, if they're in they could be in locations where a little leakage just doesn't mean anything, and vice versa. A little leakage can go a long ways. Some circuits. Here we go. Look at that. It's opening up. It's not in very bad. Not in very bad condition at all. How do we measure this one? 0.1. Just giving it a moment here to discharge. 0.1 again. It's right here. Right on the 0.1, just like the last one. So I'm replacing a bunch of capacitors that in fact probably could have gone on another 20 years in there. You know, if they made it this far, they could probably make it another 20, 30 years. Okay, 20, 30 years. So we're going to stick a 0.02 in there now. 0.02. Don't cut it so short. Part of it is he probably he needs to use the litter box, but he'd far prefer to go outside. And that's probably what the anxiety is there with the cat. At some point he'll just go to the litter box. That's my hope. Okay, it's barely on there. Let's try that. Let's try that. So just listening to the news a little bit there a few minutes ago, it sounds like the United States is starting to face up to the full picture of what is happening in terms of how long this thing's going to take, the second wave that's coming, and all these other horror stories that they haven't heard. I think our government's been a little more upfront with us here. We've known this is a long haul right from the start. Nobody knows how long it's going to be, but there's many civilizations in this world that have disappeared for no known explanations. Some in South America that have just been going gangbusters. Far more civilization in this world early on than was certainly known when I was younger. Today it's much better known just how advanced, how big these early civilizations were. Millions of people organized, living in cities, road networks. I'm thinking all the way through the Amazon jungle. It wasn't always a jungle there, you know. And what happened to these things? What happened to them? Some of them appear to have just come to a halt suddenly. Nobody's quite sure why. Now you gotta wonder, did a virus go through? You gotta wonder. I gotta wonder. I just hope that the world today is such a substantially smarter place than it was back then, when basically nothing was known. You know, you only have to go back a few hundred years to get to a place where people really didn't know anything. They really didn't. They knew how to survive. They didn't understand much. Didn't I test this? Did I test this? I don't think so. Let's give one go. So it's a very old radio with capacitors that test fairly well. But you see, it's a beautiful looking radio. So chances are it's been treated very nicely during its life. That's good. And just a wee bit at so all a little leaky, but not nearly as bad as I would have anticipated. I would have really expected these to be a lot worse. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in there, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out here. Okay, so I think I managed to replace everything I took out. We're ready for another test. Okay, switch is on. There we go, dim bulbs. Oh, could be there's no antenna on it. Uh-oh, that's a bad sign. Where's my radio? I booped it up. I booped something up. Oh. You know, it's because my cats have been throwing me off all morning. It's all their fault. Yeah, you. Oh, heavens, what's going on there? Okay, must be a loose wire in my solder job. Okay, put the radio on. Carefully. How did I boot that up? Let me grab something here. What's going on? Oh, it's working. Of course it's working now. What was that all about? Oh my gosh, the cats are fighting out there. What's up, buddy? Okay, I'm just going to leave this here for a while. I'm going to go deal with my kitties. Okay, so I'm not quite sure what's going on here, but let's set it back down. See if it stays working. I don't know. Maybe it was the tube? I don't know. Okay, radio. Can you work? Seems to have gone backwards. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down and make sure my antenna is switched on. And we'll carry on. Okay, let's try this. I got those wires backwards on the antenna wires. How come it went from working to not? Let's switch these around. It's a lot more. Really. Let's deal with that capacitor. Since the radio's not working at the moment, we'll deal with that. We need the close-up camera on this for sure. What we want to spot. Let me fix the focus here. What we want to spot is where the plates touch. None of them look bent. I suspect it's down in here. I'm actually looking at each individual plate on as best I can, okay, on both sides here. Well, I don't really see anything that's close. So let's get the short here. Right there. Going to point out where my eye is. So I'm looking right here, and I'm just going to move this over. I'm going to be looking right in here now. Just looking at every plate. That outside one. recycling. I think that's it. I think that's the one. Okay, we'll bend it out. Probably the easiest way to bend it. Put it up here. Let's look and see if the plate. Can you see the plate is pinching down? Doesn't look like it at all. And it is the most likely one, though. So I'm going to bend it out a little bit here. See if that made a difference right there. Nope. Let's get right in tight on this. See it? Okay, I don't see it there at all. Fair bit of dirt on these plates. There, that last one. Get some better light on this. Okay, so I'm going to bring it into contact, and then I'm going to try to break the contact by pushing on this outside plate here. Ow, hot too. Does seem pinched a bit. It's definitely right in there. Let me get a better, I need a stiffer tool here. There it is. it's the second plate in. It needs to be moved. Still. Man, what's happening here? Is this better? Right on the edge here. I'm going to use a different technique. See if we can find a sensitive plate. You can see what I'm doing here. Yeah, they're all sensitive. What happened? They all stopped. What happened? There we go. Gotta have it right on the edge of shorting. Checking a few other things here. Wow, this thing is sensitive everywhere. Something completely different going on from what I think it is. Everything is sensitive. What's with all that noise? No, it can't be in the knob itself. That's a little hard to believe. No, it's got to be in the capacitor somewhere. That sounds unshorted. That sounds shorted. Let me turn it up. Well, very mysterious what's going on here. Doesn't seem to do anything. Okay, different approach. Turn off the power. I'm not even sure what it is that's happening here at this point. The indications are unclear. Let's see if we can make things a little more certain here. Resistance. Futile. Okay, radio's off. So we'll go this on the stator here. Let's go over here. Okay, we're on the stator. And then to the frame. Now, 11,000 ohms. It's kind of a weird number. Let's see what happens here as I turn this around. Ba-bum. Well, that pretty much says, hey, short circuit there. Turning it back, and there it comes open, sort of. So it's clearly a short here. Let's just check the other side. Two. No, maybe there's two. Maybe. Oh, jeepers! Don't break that. Jim. I think I got it on. Zero. Zero. No. This must be short in here or something. What's happening here? Let me hook up on here. Zero. Okay, so is there a coil? Maybe there's a coil through here. 0, 1, 0. One ohm. That could be just measuring the resistance of this coil. This didn't drop to 0 at any moment. That's the primary thing. Let's do the other one again. Let me just unplug this for safety's sake. Okay, and that's the starter. Right down around here. There it goes. Oop. Got to be in there somewhere. The best way to find these is with the radio operating. Come on out of there. This up a bit. Oh. There's really only one way to find this, and that's just to keep plugging away at it. Don't want to be bending these plates all over the place. The outside plates have kind of wings, I guess you could call it. They're designed to be bent out. The rest of the plates, no. You start bending them and start twisting them and warping them, before you know it, you got more shorts and not less. So you don't want that to happen. Just looking for a station here for reassurance. No reassurance. Okay, back to... Thought I heard it. There we go. Before I had it so sensitive that you could touch this anywhere. Sure seems like something's going on here. So there is a little something going on here. This plate here is pushed in a little bit. It Just a little tiny, teeny tiny bit. Right there. Now what can happen to these capacitors if they're open like this and people are messing around with the radio? They don't know what they're doing for sure. They can push one of these plates inwards, which is what happens typically. You ram it, squeeze it with your fingers. You're taking the radio out of the cabinet and you're pushing on this plate and don't know it. It's outside plates are, well, they're outside, aren't they? Okay, now that I've talked that up, let's see if it's really true. I'll push this one back. Push it enough. Definitely looks different. Okay, there we go. Got it. Now, what about receiving some radio here? Well, that might be for another day. Why no radio? The last thing I will do then, I convince myself the radio is operating. I'm gonna, well, you know what I can do? I can do something other than what I was just gonna do. No, I won't. I will do what I was gonna do. Hey, I change your mind on the fly. Dynamic. How dynamic we are. So I'm gonna turn on the signal generator here. We're gonna give this guy a... Oh, no, I didn't, did I? Oh my gosh, I've had it hooked up to the signal generator, not the antenna. Okay, too many wires on the bench. That's what happens. Let's put the real antenna on it. Okay, never mind the signal generator. We just didn't have any decent antenna on it. That doesn't sound too exciting either.
Relief for small businesses and their landlords. On the line right now, old spot. Welcome to the show. It's a lovely spot, and it's definitely a neighborhood local. The Province Story restaurant closed over a month ago, and they're allowing only to stay open for takeout orders. I was surfing around.
Not bad. Okay. How do you like that? So I think another alignment, a more carefully done alignment, and I think this radio is finished and working. Tune all these if we wanted, but I don't think that's really worth doing. These have all got interesting labels on them from stations that turn out to be in California and on the west coast of the United States. I'll just leave them the way they are. And if you know these buttons, if you try to tune them up, you may not get it dead on, or things drift a little bit after you get them all tuned up, and in the end you push them and you just don't get a great result anyway. So good. I'll say it one more time. Very good. So I'm very happy because this is a fantastic looking radio out of the late 1930s. It's really old. It's fantastic looking. It's quite rare. So to hear it working again, and when do you think the last time was this thing was heard actually receiving stuff? Who knows, eh? So thanks a lot for watching. Enjoy your day as much as you can. And we'll finish this guy off tomorrow. Great.